So welcome to our session about consciously creating circumstances and discovering how to get your real self back. And you'll understand what I mean by that as we proceed through. And before we begin with how to do the coincidences, as I've just described, which is very important for your future, that we need to know what the future holds for us. We've been talking incrementally over the years, actually, for about 4 or 5 years about what's coming, and this is now coming up. Now it started incrementally, but it's now picking up speed. As I mentioned about 4 months ago, we've got about a year to 18 months before it comes in completely. And what I'm talking about is the takeover of jobs, robots, artificial intelligence, technology, all those kinds of things, and the splitting of society that will come with that. So you've got to make sure that you're on the side of the bread that gets the butter. In other words, you must position yourself in a very, very sensible, intelligent, planned, conscious, thoughtful way so that you can benefit from what's coming rather than be on the other end of the spectrum. And there was a big article actually yesterday about America, when America is a bit ahead of us with all these things. And the article was about how society was splitting. And one of the signs of poverty as opposed to wealth 100 years ago was that people who were on the poverty line or moving towards the poorer end of the spectrum could not afford to have good dentistry. And this was one of the sort of subtle hidden things of class distinction and so on. And people could be seen if their teeth were falling out or rotting or whatever, it was because they didn't have the money for dental work, whereas the wealthy did. And that disappeared when we got national health and all those kinds of things came in. But yesterday in the paper, or the news media, it's actually on the screen now, I keep thinking it's a newspaper. What they showed is that in America, 25% of people, which is the poverty line that they were mentioning in regard to this example, have problems with their teeth. In other words, they cannot afford dentistry. The upper classes, the wealthy, they can do it. And of course, the wealthiest suburbs in America are those in Washington, as Trump is trying to drain the swamp and all that sort of stuff. We hear about that. But the sign is that people who are in the poverty level now cannot afford dentist work, and their teeth reveal it. And it's a sort of subtle ability to read where people are in their, financial world. So that's one thing that's happening. Now we're going to see more and more examples of that, particularly if you keep an eye on the States. And we're going to see that in Australia and in all the other countries of the world, UK, Canada, all the leading democracies. And you'll see that happening an awful lot more. So this is a sign, a tip of the iceberg of what is going on in the splitting of society. You might remember that I warned you about making sure that you're on the right side of the split, so to speak. You don't want to start going downhill. You want to do everything you can to solidify your future and make it secure, really important. And this is the sign of what's coming, and there'll be many, many more signs. We also find that the space race, the other end of the spectrum, is going very well at the moment. SpaceX has reused a number of rockets, which is a huge plus for everybody because it reduces the price. And they're talking about building things on the moon. The Chinese are coming in now. Everybody is having a little go at outer space, and outer space is the drag of the economy in the sense of dragging it upwards. And that is a very, very positive thing. They're now talking of driverless cars by 2020, which is not that far away. And there are many, many millions of jobs that are going to disappear because of driverless vehicles, as we keep an eye on that. That is a sort of the canary in the mine shaft. So you want to have a look at that. But you also, if you read the papers today, the actual papers, you find that there is an ever arising alert in Australia for the challenge of jobs. That what happens in this time we're living is that they all say, oh, jobs will be recreated, it's a new economy, there'll be lots of other jobs. But we never had robots before, and we never had automatic machines doing everything to this extent that they are doing it now. So it's a very challenging time, and you must reskill yourself. I mention this every time. You must reskill yourself. The best way to reskill yourself is make sure you master the internet. Everything's going to come through the internet. Jobs are going to appear through the internet, and if you haven't got the ability to use the internet properly, you'll find it very hard to get a job, and so on. So become familiar with the internet. I'm not going to make this an internet course or anything like that. I'll do another one soon. But at the moment, you need to reskill, upskill yourself, have a number of things coming, because it is speeding up. It's really, really speeding up. And the positive side is speeding up too. Extraordinary advances in the medical profession. I would say that the prediction that has been made that if you can stay alive for 20 years, then, or actually it was 5 years ago when this was made, so 15 years from now, then you have a chance of being able to live several hundred years. They reckon they'll be able to do all the cellular rejuvenation. They're doing it all the time in mice and rats and what have you, and little bits in humans are sneaking in. It's incredible. I can assure you it's incredible. So the chances are you will live in good health to 100 plus, but you're going to need the money to do that as well. So let's look now at how it is that you can develop the consciousness to take advantage of what's coming in the future, to avoid the dangers, and to increase your consciousness and perceptions to a point where you can perceive how to increase your wealth, to manifest your own fortune, because this is going to be the name of the game. And it's going to be very expensive, this kind of medical advances, and people often run out of money, and we hear terrible stories all the time about people who've drained their bank accounts dry, even though they might have been very wealthy, just to try and cope with illness and so on. So another thing to do is to become very, very conscious of what you eat, because most illness has its sources in what you ingest. So that's another important thing, and there'll be lots more information. Don't look at the repair end of the spectrum so much as look at not injuring the body in the first place. So everybody knows what they should be doing, Mediterranean diets and this sort of thing, staying away from cigarettes and alcohol. It's all out there, mainstream. Everybody knows it, but they don't do it. So if you're in that situation, make sure you do something. So let's now look at how it is that you can create circumstances that you want. And what is important is that it is coincidences that you start with. So if you're on a path of personal development, what that means is that you are harnessing life. You're taking your life by the reins. You are actually in charge of your life. You're causing your life to be what you want it to be. You're not waiting to see what happens. That's not a wise move. You want to take the forces that are part and parcel of being a human being and start to get to know them, exercise them, and make sure that you use them to create what you want in your life. It's going to get more urgent in these times we are living. Competition is going to increase as the jobs reduce. You want to make sure that you are a person who has already prepared their nest with the skills that you're going to need as time goes on. And I'll keep passing information out about this, but it's your attitude first of all. So first of all, let's look at the basic knowledge quickly, and then we'll look at coincidences, give you the methods to create them, and of course the rest of your life in the way that you want it to be. So I'm going to be very brief with this because I've covered this in many other previous webinars, but we need to know them. So first of all, what you are is a pinpoint of life creativity. In other words, you are a tip of the iceberg of this super intelligent universe. And this universe itself has its own mind. We call it the superconscious. And that mind contains you as well. It's in you. It's in every molecule, every atom of your body. It is everywhere in the universe. You are part of it. You are it at your deepest essence. And you have to accept that you are not this bag of skin and bones wandering around a planet like a wild animal. You are a human being with consciousness, with spirituality, and you have the ability to activate all sorts of powers of your mind that animals do not have the ability to do it. So what it is this, is that you can see that you are in life, you are not outside life. This is a big important thing to get. Life appears sometimes when you feel a bit alienated or left out or that sort of thing. Life appears to be outside you in some way. And of course, there is a lot of life outside you, but it's also the same life that's inside you. And what you are is like a drop in an ocean, I often like to say. And as a drop is connected through all the parts of the ocean, it's in an ocean, it's part of an ocean. In the same way, you are in life, you are part of life, you are something that is a center. There is extension of life all around you, top, down, round and round. That's what you're living in. Now, at present, you are coated with a false identity, which is called your personal mind. This is not the logical or rational faculties or any particular thing. It's the identity part of yourself, the personality parts of yourself. And personality comes from the word persona, meaning a mask. So that gives us a tip that it's a mask. And of course, there is something wearing a mask, which very few people talk about or know about. So your personal mind is anchored in your conditioning, and you need to free yourself of its grip. This is the big thing. You have at the base of your personality a little ball of light called the vulnerable child, the innocence, the connection, the pure energy that's in there, and then that gets layered over and over and over by these defense structures, which we call the subpersonalities, and they are some sort of armoring around what you truly are at essence. And once you realize that you are anchored by your conditioning, which is all the things that have happened to you in the past, and you need to free yourself from its grip, then your life transforms. So until you get to that point, it's hard to transform anything, because you need to transform internally in order for the external to also transform. So keep in mind from now on that your only problem, you only have one problem, which gives all the experiences of your life, and that problem is wrong identity. That you have identified with what you are not. That's why we call this session, Get Your Real Self Back, because you've lost it. You can't help losing it. It's just the nature of civilization, and you can get it back. That's the point. It's not disappeared somewhere. It's deeply within you. Now, how do you do that? How can you get your real self back? How can you get in touch with your powers, which is the whole point? You want your real self because it's got the powers of the universe. That's the superconscious within you. You need that in order to express those powers. They don't just come as something to do with the personal mind or the ego. They come from the essence of your being. And the major way to do that, what's always been done, is to hear stories about the truth of life, that you are connected to the superconscious, that you are like the drop in the ocean, in other words. And secondly, to put yourself in the position of doing various practices. Those two things will do it. Hear the stories, the true stories about the truth of life, and do the practices to free yourself from this thing that grips you and gives you frustration, disappointment, unhappiness, inability to succeed, etc., etc., etc. And what is a practice? The practice is the performance of constant reminders to release the grip of your false identity. What that false identity has is a gripping over you, and also get reminders of the knowledge and information to apply your hidden and unexpressed powers to create what you want. as well as hearing about the practical steps. That's it. If you can get those two, of course, that's a big thing, I must admit, but if you can get those two, if you at least understand it intellectually, you're well ahead on the path. Most people have no idea that their internal world has an effect on their outside world. They don't know that the mind and the emotions and the feelings and the primordial energies and all these things, the superconscious, all these things that are going on inside this skin that you live in and as and through, have an effect on the outside world. We are in a mind-based universe, and your life is a mind-based life. Even at a simple level, you make a choice, but at a deeper level, there's all sorts of forces going on inside you that literally tune in with life itself and create your experiences. So this is another reason to look within. Now, why should this ever have happened? Why should we have been in this extraordinary position of not being completely natural in our own true self? Well, the reason is that we are all hypnotized beings. Every single interaction that you have in your life, that comes to you in your life, is actually hypnosis. Now, this is a big, big understanding. Consider that every word you hear, every image you see, every feeling you feel, every glance that comes your way, every behavior that people express to you, every action that you take and others take, every event you find yourself in, every circumstance and every impression that are constantly pouring into you, tens of thousands of impressions an hour, maybe a minute, they're very powerful. What they do, all these things, they're all instructions. You have been instructed to be who you are. You have believed those instructions. You are now reinforcing them every day by self-instructions, because if something goes in enough, it becomes a repeating pattern, and you know that from a song. You hear a song on the radio and you know it, and then you can sing along and it's there for a long time. That's how advertising works. We all know that. So these collection of hypnotic instructions build up and form an impregnable wall around all their natural powers and real self, and you have to escape from that. That is the journey of human life. And what happens is you can escape from it. You can free yourself from the grip of those hypnotic suggestions that have been poured into you throughout your life. Just like the people who become geniuses, who we recognize as geniuses, what are they doing? They're using a bit more of the superconscious. They've unhooked some of the conditioning through their actions. Maybe they're musicians or artists or writers or whatever. They've managed to unhook some of those things. And what you're doing, if you want to create your life in the way you want it to be, find your real self, enjoy many coincidences as well, then what you have to do, the one thing, is to directly experience the superconscious, which is your real self, its real form, in other words. So where you are right now, the personal mind that you live in and as and through, is something you have, not something that you are. Very important to get that. So let's look and see exactly what the superconscious or your highest essence actually is. One and the same thing. First, I'll give you a hint. The superconscious is usually recognized initially as a fluid-like energy. It's like a heat haze. That kind of, it's not the same as one, but it's like that sense. There's something there. It's invisible, but there's a presence. You feel a presence, and you experience it in hands-on healing, that kind of thing. A flow comes out of you. You experience in your atmosphere when you're in the zone, you feel very strong, or you've been doing a lot of chanting and meditating. The atmosphere builds for you, and you feel and sense this something else. You're not quite sure what it is, but it is something else. Let's use some experiences of people, educated people, and others, so you can see how this energy comes about, how the superconscious can be felt. And 200 years ago, the most well-known man, Franz Mesmer, a German physician, suggested that there was an energetic fluid that flowed between all objects. So he sensed something. He called it animal magnetism. And in Paris, he became, for a while, celebrated as a great healer. He would have remarkable effects on people using this fluid. And eventually, they called it mesmerism initially, but then it became hypnosis after a little while. The great composer, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, was a supporter of Mesmer, who taught that the mind, Mesmer taught the mind was a fluid substance. It's a something, well, let's face it, who knows what a mind is? Nobody, because it's invisible. Have you ever put a mind in a test tube or measured a dream? Put a ruler alongside a thought? No. So we're dealing with something that is beyond the call of science. It's an invisible something that does an awful lot of things, as we will see. And if you have the good fortune to meet a great yogi who can give you Shaktipat, which is Shakti is this energy of life, Pat is the transmission of, we call it grace, transmission of grace in the West, or spiritual energy perhaps. What happens for you if you do get that is that you can feel some sort of fluid-like energy flowing into you as they lay their hands on you, or they press their finger against your eyebrow chakra there, or direct it into your body. I personally experienced it when I met Muktananda, the great energy master I studied with, and he sent energy into me. He was sitting about 2 or 3 meters from me. He looked at me, his eyes widened slightly, and then this force, I mean, it was more than a fluid, it was a force that came into me and went right inside me, and I felt an explosion of energy at the base of my spine. It rushed up towards my head. I'd never experienced anything like that before in my life, and yet it happened. And what was it? Well, it was this superconscious energy. Shakti, they call it. Grace, we call it. It's something. And you will start to experience it if you are committed to finding out. If you make it the most important thing in your life, it'll come much more quickly, obviously. But you must be committed to wanting to find out, not be a sort of dabbler. You know, I was a dabbler in the beginning. I wanted the quick, easy way to do it and all that. But it's an extraordinary thing when you start to realize that this force exists. And not only that, but you can feel it when you do the practices a lot. You can feel it as a presence, an intelligent presence, almost like a person. This is where people get the idea of angels and things from. It's just the superconscious. You can feel it there with you when you do the practices. And you learn to surrender to it more and more, because in truth, it is your highest self. It is your own superconscious that's been released by the removal of the coverings through your commitment and practices. This is how it delivers. If you're stuck in a sort of nasty personality or a disappointed or frustrated one, it's harder to experience it. These are things that have been layered over you in your upbringing, maybe from your parents or schooling or something like that. But everything can be dealt with if you have that commitment to be a loving person, a perceptive person, a quality person. If you make yourself into somebody of quality, well-mannered, charming, friendly, helpful, kind, loving, those sorts of things, that helps you an awful lot to release this higher energy within you, because they are the higher qualities. That's why they've always been recognized as such in every single civilization. So what happens is that when you create these coincidences that we're going to look at in a moment, you find that something there must be washing through the whole of life, this ocean of life, to bring coincidences along. And when you feel these coincidences, what they really are is a more intense expression of the life force. And this is how you can recognize these things. And when you experience a coincidence, what happens with it sometimes, particularly a strong one, is that you get filled with a sense of meaning. Now, people are always searching for the meaning of life. They think it's a something over there. Oh, yes, I found it because I respect some poet who said something. The real meaning is the direct experience of the superconscious. And the more powerful the coincidences you create, the more intense they are, and of course, the quicker they come, the stronger the sense of meaning you will have. You will no longer ask, what is the meaning of life? You will experience it, and it's something that you've never experienced before. And it is so rich and so totally fulfilling that you just want it more and more and more and more. And that's what happens to people when they get on a proper consciousness path. This is what they want. So if you do that, then you find that this meaning fills you with certainty and confidence and power and significance. Everything becomes more significant. It can't be described with ease, but what you can say is that everything makes sense in your life, usually for the very first time, when you get the real thing. So you're not looking for the meaning of life, you're releasing the meaning of life on an energetic superconscious level. And so let's look and see, if you create coincidences, if you learn how to do it, and I'm going to show you now very simple ways to help you do it. You're actually doing it all the time anyway, may not be aware of it, that's the thing. What you, of course, need to ask is, how on earth does it happen? What higher intelligence must be in play to make it come into existence? And this is the important thing. How does it happen? What is the mechanism that makes it happen? Well, let's save time, it's the superconscious. And I was touring once with Deepak Chopra, giving public talks, and he always used to talk about synchronicity and coincidence. He loved that. And he called it synchrodestiny. And he was fascinated with those ideas and believed that if they could be understood, you would have the key to life. If you could understand how not only to be involved with the coincidence, but to create one. That was the thing. So a coincidence is where two unexpected events come together and have significance for you. You think of somebody, they walk along the street and there they are, or one of the many others. We'll go through some in a minute. So coincidence is the expression of the highest intelligence. It's peeping into your life. It's trying to guide you and help you to create the experiences that you want. So if you get a coincidence, make a note of it from now on, because that will encourage them to come back and encourage you to be in the receptive state of mind that will allow them in. And when I spent time consulting with Princess Diana, before she passed away, obviously, and discussing her life and its issues, she also totally believed that there was a great truth held in coincidences. She was very, very strong on it, actually. And she really wanted to understand how it worked and how they work, because she'd experienced many in her life. Well, look at the position she was in. But they would not come to her when she wanted them. She really wanted to get them under her control. But unfortunately, I was leaving for England. I was leaving England for the Amazon jungle, 24 hours later, and didn't have time to explain it all to her. Then, of course, then she was gone. But you'd be surprised at the people in positions of power and celebrity, perhaps, who are very fascinated with it, because usually they've experienced many coincidences in their life to get to the positions that they're in, because they had some good fortune that the superconscious was awoken in their life. And what you find is this, is that when you deliberately start working with it, you can create such a flow of coincidences to happen that your life starts to seem to being actually lived by the superconscious. And amazing as it seems, you've got this invisible genius next to you. That is the easiest way. Do your practices, read about it, study it, understand it, allow it to be in there, have an open mind, because many people have different opinions about what the superconscious is. Many don't even know it exists, but they will try and undermine you if you confront them, so you might have to keep quiet about it. It's like electricity, you know, there's 5 or so different descriptions and theories of what it is. No one knows what it is, and often the descriptions contradict each other, and it's like the superconscious. People actually don't know. They've got lots of ego and vanity to stop them going in one direction or another, and so on. So you have to leave that behind. But when you start to experience altered states, which come from your meditative practices, your proper consciousness practices, you become very aware there is a something else in existence. You didn't know it was there before, but you know there is something else that's benign, intelligent, on your side, totally helpful, a genius level, and you want to turn your attention to it, but you don't know, because it fluctuates in the beginning. It comes and goes, and sometimes it's there and you go, wow, this is great, and then it goes, you don't know how to get it back, and so on. I'll give you some tips now. And what you first of all have to do if you want to make your life become everything that you wanted using this power is that you need to peel away your ingrained beliefs that have been loaded up into you by your upbringing, as it is these that block you from the truth. It is the belief wall. It is the imitation wall where you're imitating parental behaviors. It is these glass ceilings and glass walls that you can't sort of get out of, and there's a great nest and worm ball of things that are holding you back. But let's see what it is that you can do about that. And I'm going to give you some actual coincidences, true stories, quite extraordinary ones, so that you can stretch your conditioned mind, experience more inner freedom, obviously, but you stretch that out and you find something will shift inside you. And you want to know this electricity of life. So the easiest place to start is with, obviously, the coincidences I've said, and I want you to free yourself from them. And strange things can help you. Shocking things, astonishing things, astounding things, amazing things. These are what are called shocks. And not shocks in a negative sense, but in a positive sense. When something unusual happens in your life on this scale, that is the breakthrough point for many people. And that's why people go on spiritual journeys and quests and searches and all that, to break through to this divine realm of life, which is what it actually is. And I remember when I once went into a meeting in Muktananda's room, there was just Muktananda, his translator, a couple of people there, and I went in for this meeting, and when I opened the door, I stepped in, and the energy in the room was so thick, it was like walking through some sort of treacle. It was thick, and I literally felt, oh, what's going on? But not only was it thick, the atmosphere, the energy, it was filled with bliss. And I went into, I'd been quite, my mind was racing when I was sitting in the corridor waiting to go in. But the bliss went in, and it just went right through me, just through every pore of my body, every single cell. And I was standing there in actual bliss, ecstatic consciousness, better than any drug, this sort of thing. And they had to tell me to sit down, what do you want? I had to, luckily I had some notes in my pocket, I had to try and think of something to say, but I was totally satisfied. I was in an altered state of consciousness that was higher than anything I'd experienced before. How did that happen? Well, Muktananda was open to the superconscious. He'd done the job on himself. He chanted and chanted and chanted and meditated and meditated and meditated until eventually that gripping let go. He didn't have to build the superconscious. He had to release it. You see? So when you're living your life consciously, what are you doing? You're releasing the barriers to your own essence, your own superconscious. So this is why you consciously create your life, and these things happen unless you have the good fortune to meet somebody like a Muktananda. And I remember after that meeting I flew back from Melbourne to Sydney, and my consciousness, I was a rush to get to the airport, and I got in there and sat on the plane, and as we took off and went above the clouds, I saw the sunset going down there, and I suddenly went into this altered state again, and the whole plane was filled with bliss. And I was sitting there in absolute divine consciousness. Unbelievable, extraordinary experience. It filled the plane, it went right out to the sun and the clouds on the other side. And oh my God, it was just so fantastic. And they call this Shakti. And it was conscious. It's not just energy, you see. People think it's energy. Oh yes, it's energy. But this energy is absolutely aware, absolutely conscious of what it's doing and the fact that it exists. Now, this might seem very big stretch for you to consider that, but when it happens, you realize it's an extension of you that has been repressed and held down all your life. So it's a joyful, blissful experience, whichever way you get it, okay? So that's the first thing that you possibly could do. You have shocks, not that you can create the shocks yourself, you might push yourself or something like that, but or you might have the good fortune to meet somebody and so on. Now, the second way, the more common way, and the way that leads to what I've just described, is that you continually pour into your mind on a daily basis this knowledge. You read about it, you listen to it, recordings about it, or somebody speaking about it, you do practices, you consider it. In other words, you try to imbibe it in any and every way that you possibly can. And like a stream flowing down can cut a deep rock, a deep groove in the hardest rock, in fact, and wash it all away, you can wash away the resistance to experiencing your real self, because that's the problem. Something within you is resisting this. And if you create coincidences, this will help you. If you fill your mind with it, it will help you. Your mind must be worked on like that little stream wearing away the rock of resistance. And this world of experience that we live in is the place to do that. It's what I do every day of my life now. I've reached that point now in my life where this is what I do. I can do anything, I might add. I can go and make films, I can give talks like this, or I can write, or I can go to the beach, or all the ordinary things, go to the pictures. But always, always, always is that consideration. Superconscious, superconscious, superconscious. That's how it works. And so in the beginning, of course, you do little things because it builds up until you realize how powerful it is. Then you just don't want to waste time with the other little things. So you can do that. It builds up over time. You might flood your mind with this knowledge, fill it right up, and then you create coincidences. You want to deliberately create them if you can. Let me give you some automatic ones, because it's very, very exciting when you hear about that. And I'll give you a variety of them from other people, some from me. And I had a very interesting one when I was doing the writing for my film Being in Heaven some years ago. And I sat down to write the script for the film. It was in February. And I was detailing the main character in the film, a young Australian working in New York during the global financial crisis. And in the film, he loses everything, returns to Sydney to get his life back together. And he's at a crossroads and has several options. And he was even thinking of changing his life entirely. That was the story of the character. So I started to think while I was there considering the writing, which actor could I cast for that part? Very important, the actor that you get. And particularly the film that deals with the higher things of life. And when you're going for actors, you want someone who fits the part, obviously, of what you're considering. And I was sitting there thinking, what kind of actor could possibly do this, when, in front of my computer, an email appeared. It was from a young actor, Daniel White, who had 10 years previously read my book, Absolute Happiness, and attended my seminars down in Adelaide. And because of the book, my book he read, he decided to completely change his life. And he was now at a crossroads considering what would he do in the future. And the strange thing was that the words in the email that he sent me were almost exactly the words that I'd just written that I was writing for the character. I couldn't believe it. It was so coincidental that it was a shock. And Daniel's thoughts obviously gone into that. He was obviously thinking about this. He was a proper professional actor, gone trained for 4 years at university and so on. But the coincidence in what he was writing was so significant. I looked him up immediately on YouTube. I get a lot of letters, but I looked him up on YouTube, saw some of his performances in the television series McLeod's Daughters, and I was very impressed with him, and so was my wife Paulina. I called him in Melbourne. I found out how to get him. I was in Sydney, invited him for a casting meeting. He flew up, and he was perfect for the part, and we cast him immediately. And when you see his performance, if you've seen Being in Heaven, you can see why. Not only is he very handsome, the women really comment on this a lot, but he's also an excellent actor. I never had to look for anyone else. Normally people go through gigantic tortures trying to find the right actors for the parts, but this is what happens, you see. When you allow the superconscious into your life, things start to come to you in magical ways. So let's look at a couple of true stories here. And this is one you might have heard, was a very famous one, because identical twins often have amazing experiences. This is a story about identical twins born in America, in Ohio. And these twin boys were separated at birth, adopted by different families, and unknown to each other, they had no connection whatsoever. They just lived in completely different parts of America. Both families named these boys James. That's a coincidence, little tiny one. Both these James grew up never knowing each other, yet both became involved in law enforcement, sheriffs or something. Both were skilled in mechanical drawing and carpentry. Both had married a woman named Linda. They had sons who they named James Allen. Both of them named them James Allen. The second one had 2 L's in Allen. The first one had 1 L. That's pretty extraordinary, isn't it? They both divorced their wives, married again to women who were called Betty. And they both had dogs, which they named Toy. They met again after 40 years and were stunned to find all the coincidences. Now, what's going on there? Something's going on, quite obviously. You don't randomly call your dog Toy or whatever it might be, all these coincidences. Because what's going in is that there's some intelligence that still connects them across time and space, and that same intelligence is in your grasp. It washes through you. And as it washes through you, it picks up what you are and what you're thinking about. And then it takes those thoughts and images and ideas across to some matching pattern. And let's face it, identical twins obviously are pretty close matching patterns, and you get drawn into it. And that's what happens for you. That's why you find yourself as you are in the circumstances that you are in. This invisible energy, superconscious force washes through you, so to speak, like the ocean, and it spreads out, and its tentacles, if you like, or its hands go out into the universe and draw to you what it is that is within you and brings coincidental things. Let's look at another one. American novelist Anne Parrish. She went to Paris. She's looking in bookstores, as in the 1920s, and she came across a book that was one she loved to read when she was a child. Jack Frost and Other Stories, it was called. So she picked it up in this secondhand bookshop. She picked it up, showed her husband, and telling him she used to love this book when she was a child. So he took it, he looked at it, and he opened it, and on the flyleaf inside, you know, the piece of paper inside, he saw written Anne Parrish, 209th North Weber Street, Colorado Springs. It was her very own book that she had lost, you know, many, many years before. And she finds herself in Paris, away from Colorado Springs, and picks up the actual book itself. Now, is that a coincidence? Yes, it's a coincidence, but you've got to think, what is causing that to happen? If you can grasp what's causing that kind of thing to happen, then you have the tools for creating your life in the way that you want them to be. And you start, as you'll see in a minute, by doing that. Let's look at another one. 2001, a girl, Laura Buxton, 10 years old. She filled up a balloon with helium, and on one side she wrote, "Please return to Laura Buxton," and with her address on it, and sent it into the sky, hoping that it would land somewhere and somebody would do it. It was found by a man in Wiltshire, about 140 miles or so away, and he looked at it, picked it up, and what the strange thing was that he ran to the little girl who lived next door to him, and her name was Laura Buxton as well. And she showed him, and she was so stunned because she was 10 years old. And the girls arranged to meet, and they were completely shocked at the things that were the same between them. Same color hair, blue jeans, pink jumper. Each of them had a guinea pig, a pet guinea pig, which were again similar, with a small patch of brown on their tails, and so many other coincidences. How could that be? What is going on? That balloon, written by Laura Buxton, lands exactly with the man's hand who lives next door to Laura Buxton. They have all these similarities. You see, there's something going on. And if you can start to fill your mind with these kinds of things and open up your mind to What is it that's doing that? Is it just luck? You can't just, you must approach it scientifically and try and work out what it is that's doing it. Let's look at one more here, a very, very good one. In July the 28th, 1900, there was a king of Italy called King Umberto I, and he went to a town called Monza to get a dinner. And the owner, whose name was also Umberto, took the king's order, and they saw that they were almost identical twins. And they started to talk, and they had lots of other similarities. Both were born on March the 14th, 1844, in Turin, the town of Turin. Both married women called Margherita on the same day. The restaurant opened the day the king was crowned King of Italy. And the next day, King Umberto learned that the restaurateur, his double, had died earlier that day in a mysterious shooting. Somebody had shot him, the restaurant owner. And as the king expressed his regret, an anarchist in the crowd assassinated him as well. Well, that's pretty good, isn't it? What's going on? You see, you have to start to think, try and grasp what's happening, try and get an explanation running through your mind in some way. What possible intelligence could do that? Don't worry about the why. How is much more interesting, because if you can get a sense, even a little glimmer of that, which is within you, then you can use that consciously and deliberately. You have to make it the path of your life, and you'll be very surprised. Let me give you another one here. There was a woman in Germany who took a picture of her infant son in 1914, left the film to be developed in Strasbourg, and then World War I broke out. She couldn't get back to Strasbourg, and so she let it go. 2 years later, she bought a film plate in Frankfurt, 100 miles away, to take a picture of a newborn daughter. And when she had the film developed, it turned out to be a double exposure, with the picture of her daughter superimposed on the earlier picture of her son. By some incredible twist of fate, the original had never been developed and just unused, and eventually resold to her, of all people who could have bought it, some superintelligence. Now, let's think of this one. What was it doing? She regretted losing the picture of her baby son. She regretted it, quite obviously, a mother and a son, blah, blah. And there was arising within her a yearning, a strong desire. Oh, I really want that picture. If only I could have that picture of my baby, etc. World War would have been a ghastly thing, and that picture, my God. Now, somehow or other, bang, it appears. So now you see the intensity of desire, the force of your mind to be able to create such a circumstance is the secret tool. Let's go into it a little bit more. Anthony Hopkins, the great Oscar-winning actor, had agreed to appear in a film called The Girl from Petrovka, based on a novel by a man called George Pfeiffer. He looked through London and unable to find a copy of the book anywhere. It was an out-of-print thing. But as he was walking on a train station, he sat down on a bench to wait for a train. He was surprised to discover next to him on the bench was this very book. And not only was it the actual book he was looking for, it turned out to be the author, George Pfeiffer's, personal copy, which he'd lent to a friend and had been stolen from his friend's car. And George Pfeiffer. Now, if you know anything about acting, you know that the actor loves to talk to the writer, wants to get to know the writer, etc. And there's a great burning desire, obviously in Tony Hopkins, for getting what he can about the character. That's what drives the actors. They want to get the character, they want to get it, and he wanted the book to see the original story, which was different from the script, probably quite different in some cases. And that yearning, that strong desire, unshakable, nothing is going to knock that out of his head, just like the mother with the double superimposed plate, camera plate. Same with Tony Hopkins. Nothing's going to knock that out of his mind. He wants that until he gets it. He wants it. And actors have very strong minds. They have to remember things and hold things and act and so on. So it's not surprising to me that he actually found it in that way. And there are many other strange premonition kinds of things. On September the 11th, 9/11, I think they called it, a few hours before the World Trade Center was attacked, there was a spike in the 37 generators in the building at a uniform rise, which they call variance, and they became very noisy, in inverted commas, which they're overdoing it a bit, for no reason at all. And then, over the course of the rest of the day, suddenly the opposite happened. There was a drop in magnitude of these generators that was unusually quiet and unique for that time of year. Just suddenly went very loud and then very soft. And then the planes hit and down came the building. Now, this gives you another hint. The superconscious is not just in living beings, animals, humans, etc. It is in all created things. It's in the rocks, the mountains, the stars, the galaxies. It's in your cup of tea. It's in every single thing, including the generators. Now, then you've got to ask yourself, did the superconscious know what was coming, so to speak? Well, I would say yes. I think it probably knows an awful lot more than we do. And how was it reacting? Well, the heartbeat of that building is the generators, the electricity, the power. Boom, 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 boom. Careful, something's coming, and then quiet, quiet, quiet. The whole thing goes. So you have to think of the superconscious not just as your personality or your being or your body or whatever it is. It is everything in life. We're in a mind-based universe. Everything in life is affected by this. So you, when you put your instructions in for what you want, then you will start to cause these great invisible forces of life, put them into play, pulling and coordinating things together, leaving trails and footsteps of its movements, so to speak, and we see these as coincidences. That's what a coincidence is. It's the footsteps in the sand of these flows and movements of this superconscious and its energies and intelligence and all the other parts of it. And if you work yourself, if you become more potent, you become, after meditation, chanting and consciousness work and so on, what you find, the closer to the source within yourself that you get, away from the grippings of the negativity, the closer you get inside yourself, the more you can cause things to happen that you want. See, it's happening anyway. It's flowing, it's going, it's creating coincidences left, right, and center. And remember, this is what you need to do if you want to create amazing coincidences. Think to yourself, what type of person do you need to become to do this? You need to be someone who is interested in and committed to knowledge of the superconscious, because it is the superconscious that's doing it, and it is the superconscious which is your own real self. This is why every single spiritual, philosophical discipline said, know yourself, know thyself, I am that self, etc. I am that I am, and all those hints, well, clear instructions, quite frankly. And the more that you start to do this, the more coincidences will take place, and the more you deliberately cause them to come in the sense of creating your life. It's like a loop that builds. It builds. It builds. The more you do it, the more you can do it, the more it will respond. The more you do it, the more it responds, etc. See how it works? You also need to develop the power of stillness, which is reversing the normal activities of your inner universe. We live in a mad time. High stress, high anxiety, too much to do, no minutes to spare, all these kinds of things you read about that are happening to people. And you've got to develop stillness, proper stillness, which is meditation properly done. 90% of meditation taught is taught incorrectly, and you need to understand it from the big level. It's not just Valium. meditation, which is what most people teach it as. It's something far more potent, far more powerful. And once you get it cracking, you'll be very, very happy that you do, because that proper stillness, that full head-to-toe stillness, flows out into your life as the ability to create more coincidences and events and circumstances and so on. And it's also very, very amusing. I mean, you've got a resource that's beyond your comprehension. Its power and creativity is so extraordinary, so fabulous, so exquisitely powerful that you can laugh yourself, to yourself as things happen, as coincidences take place. You go, oh God, that's so funny. It does become funny. So it's the strength of your desire, it's the intellectual understanding of what I've just described, I won't go through it again, and you comprehend that all the things that underlies life itself is actually motivated and supported and given existence by this flowing energetic power, which in one level is very still, because when you get still you can draw your power to you, but on another level it's sending signals, you might say, rather than moving. It's a very difficult thing to sum up perfectly, but you can experience it. That's the important thing. So intuition is a sign of it. Coincidences happening is a sign of it coming into your life. As the saying goes, when you want something properly, the yearning I mentioned earlier, the whole universe will conspire to help you get it. Most people's problems in personal development is that they do not want it enough. They don't know the power, or maybe their belief structures are limiting them and undermining them. And if you keep going, you'll break through all that, you'll chuck all that away, and the universe, the superconscious, will start to communicate with you as you begin to live as the creator of your life. That's what you have to do. You have to say, right, I am creating my life. I am a projector sending out the movies that are running within me. All the things out there have something to do with me. Maybe not everything, an earthquake, you know, a volcano or something, but most things in your life are entirely tied up with what is going on within you. And life is always and ever only responding, reacting, giving, moving to your intentions. So you take hold of what flows through your mind and make sure it's what you want. In other words, don't allow your mind to be filled with thoughts that are negative or undermining or nasty or anything. Just don't do it. Just give it up. It's a habit. Give up frustration. Give up anger. You know, don't live in that way. Disappointment. Oh, my life isn't working in the way that I want it to. Well, then change it. That's all you say to yourself. Don't allow those victim consciousness ideas to flow through you. So something else is in play that you will find if you lead your life with that commitment. And if you do those very straightforward and simple practices, you drink deeply of them, that will work, because the entire universe is intricately and intensely interconnected through vibration and then meaning. And the more meaning you feel, the more powerful you will become and the more loving. You can measure your progress basically on how loving are you, how inclusive are you. That's the measure of progress, as you know. Everybody has said that. So this is what the necessary thing to do. Your life is a reflection of what's going on inside you. It's a reflection of your access to the superconscious. You need to constantly recondition yourself with the most accurate information that you can find. You must commit yourself to practices. This is a far more efficient way to live. Unfortunately, most people don't do that. You have to have the truth seeped into you all the time. In India, they talk about satsang, which means meetings with the truth, the company of people who are living in this way. That's a very, very helpful way. Through osmosis, you pick up their atmosphere, the content of what they say goes into your mind, and you start to think about that. That's a very, very helpful thing to do it. And as we know, thoughts, emotions, feelings can cause physical things. Diseases, of course, can come out of feelings, as Louise Hay has shown in her You Can Heal Your Life book. And all these forces that go on within you, and there are lots and lots and lots of them, and you need the superconscious's help to flush them all out at once. Don't pick them one at a time. It'll take you 200 years, if that, probably 1,000 years. You don't want to pick them one at a time. If you've got some issue, of course, you see someone professional. That can be very helpful quickly. But what you want to realize is that your identity itself, who you're playing in life like an actor, is a little intensification of all these myriad forces. You have collected together and coagulated together. You're doing the dance of life, which is the dance of experiences. And what is very important is to know that focusing on something, filling your mind with it, taking actions as if it's coming to you, will work. Most people, it works through negativity. They feel fear, they feel lack, they feel confusion, and that's what is manifested in their life. Now, you may be playing out a pattern of mum and dad, and you're living that out because you're processing it out. You're peeling the onion skin layers off, and that's something you keep going through, but you keep being optimistic. You're going to come out the other side, and you do things to contribute to that result that you really want. And concentrating on something causes all sorts of things to move within you. And you can hear this from thousands and millions of people who are successful. The intelligence underlying and interspersed with the world responds to you. So don't allow things like worry and negativity to come forward. Take a break, take a breath. A deep breath can often help an awful lot. Change the thought streams and move right along with creating something. So if you have a lot of anxiety or fear, just hear it, feel it, so to speak, take a breath, do something creative about an activity that would resolve that fear. If you're lacking money, do make some plans about how to make money. That alone can knock on the head a lot of those resistances. So every moment of your life is already operating in synchronicity. In other words, you are dancing a dance and you are calling in your dance partners, i.e. the other people, events and circumstances of your life. You are calling them in for the dance. If you want to change life, you change the dance. It's your dance, okay? That's what you actually have to do. So it's a fascinating and extraordinary way to live, to make a decision. And you make a decision on a small coincidence. You say, okay, I'm going to focus on some friend from 10 years ago you haven't seen. Or I'm going to focus on a particular style of car that I'd like. Or I'm going to focus on a job opportunity coming my way. Or I'm going to focus on having a very nice time in my family life. It doesn't matter what it is, just a little thing. You focus on that one thing. The universe, it probably takes, I've only ever heard it taking a week for most people, a simple thing, will suddenly present it to you. And you go, wow, that actually worked. Yes, is the answer to that. It does actually work. And not only does it work, it's how you can create whatever you want in your life. Practice, practice, practice. Accept that you are totally integrated with the superconscious. In fact, it is your own real self. Get back to your real self. And what you'll find is that you'll be thrilled with what you can do. You're only using 1% or less of your power. Start to use the other 99+%. It might seem a strange thing to say, but you look and you see how we live, and you read Shakespeare, what a piece of work is man, meaning humanity, and all that wonderful speech. So you look and you go, okay, I have within myself a great being. It's called the superconscious. I have it there. I'm going to have a relationship with it. I'm going to use it consciously and deliberately. I'm going to take the reins of my life, and I'm going to have a great time here on this planet. I know there'll be challenges. I know there'll be a wrestling as the old stuff is flushed out, but even so, I will not be thrown off the path. And then as you do that, meaning, purpose, delight, divinity, bliss, ecstasy become your daily workmates. In they come. So that is what I have outlined here for you. I will take questions now, and let's see if anybody has anything they'd like to ask me about that. But start by writing down the simple thing, the list of goals, always the first thing. Don't bypass that. And make them little goals if you've never done it before. Little tiny things, little tiny coincidences, whatever they might be, just anything of a coincidental nature. You've had many coincidences in your life, so you think back to them, you think, oh yes, that's right, I did see that friend from 10 years ago, and that was a nice feeling. Do it again consciously. Do anything consciously. You know, anything to do with the shopping you can use, or, you know, everyone uses car spaces, but do something a little more imaginative than that. And every one that you create will reinforce that you have the power already. You don't have to get it from somewhere else. It's sitting there. So let's look and see if we have any questions. Write them down if you like on the question box on your control panel if you haven't done it before. And here we go. Now let me see, what have we got here? Sandra. Okay, Susanna, that's fine. Sandra, do you need Shaktipat from a master to experience blissful states? I'm constantly reading these books and attending courses, and I'm doing a life coaching course trying to let go of fear, but I still feel lost and I'm not sure what I'm doing in my life. Well, the feeling of loss is a feeling of not being connected with the superconscious. So you don't need Shaktipat from a master. Shaktipat can come within. It's a great idea, though, to speed up the process to find somebody who is a master. They're few and far between, but chanting alone can bring you the Shaktipat. And what I find in our meditation and chanting weekends that we do in Byron is that the Shakti is there in the hall, and people get the Shakti, they feel it spark awake, if you like. So I wouldn't be too worried about that, because what you'll find is that as you meditate regularly and do the practices, the right experience will come your way, because really it's within you very, very deeply. But going to a proper presentation, ashram, weekend, retreat, that is a very good thing to do. I'm doing life coaching because I'm trying to go fear. Okay, fear is something, okay, let me talk about anxiety and fear very quickly, because I know a lot of people have that. What is it? Let me tell you what happens. In the wild, there is the animal nature for everything. So there's in the old days, the raptors would come running along, saber-toothed tigers, nowadays lions, all those sorts of things. The predators, in other words, would come. You are wired in your nervous system to actually have a reaction to a predator. Naturally enough, you don't want to become somebody's lunch. So inside you, the raptor, when faced with a challenge, let's say your crocodile brain, as they sometimes call it, reptilian brain, it will jump up when it sees something coming to eat it up, quite obviously, if you're in the wild. Now, what happens then? Well, then you have fight, flight, or freeze. If you freeze, they eat you. If you fight, you might win. And if you take flight, you might get away. Now, what happens is that there is, when a predator threatens you, an arising within yourself of that energy to run or fight. Okay? Now, as a human being, when something happens to you to threaten you in your life, like you run out of money, like your job may not be there, your relationship looks like it might be breaking down, etc. Any of those ordinary experiences, you're under too much press, stress, pressure, stress. What happens then is that the fight and flight response arises again, and you hear people say that they want to run. In the middle of the night, they wake up in fright, in terror, in horror, in anxiety, and many people want to get out of the bed and just run off. But of course, it's too cold and it's not the done thing. So they try to crawl further under the doona. They wrap themselves up, which is the freeze response. Anxiety is the unexpressed fight or flight response. It is the residue of that hormonal, adrenaline, urge, nervous system urge to run for your life or get into a big fight. So that's what anxiety is. That's one of the main contributors to it. There may be other things as well that cause anxiety, but that's the primal version. And I suspect that if people went and got some sort of hypnosis somewhere during the day, somewhere in a private place, and were taken back to the fear, and they took a run, they ran up and down, they allowed the flight response to play out, then they would remove an awful lot of their anxiety, if not all of it. Because it's a natural release that should take place. So if you are suffering from anxiety, depression, worry, confusion, etc., and you feel inside you, which most people do, this anxious terror, break into a run if you can. Maybe not in the office, but you know what I mean. Or if you can feel it back at her, you come home and you close your eyes and you try and re-spark it, and then you do a run and see if that helps you. It does help a lot of people. So it might help you too. So that is what fear is. Fear is continual anxiety stored up, unreleased. So you need to get a little bit fit to break into a run, but that's worth doing too. Anyway, quite frankly, 20 minutes a day of walking is a very good idea. Okay, another one. An amazing coincidence I experienced. I spoke at a Toastmasters meeting. I was a guest speaker at a club of business people. I wanted to get evaluated from a new perspective. I knew no one at this club. I nervously gave my speech. It went down well. Afterwards, the evaluators have to have 5 minutes to write up their critique. So the meeting Toastmaster asked me to come up and talk about who I am. I said I was here to improve speaking skills, and I was being coached by Michael Rowland to set up an online business. She looked startled when I said that. She said, "What a coincidence. There are 2 other speakers today. Their first names are Michael and Rowland." How bizarre. That is bizarre, isn't it? Rowland is the first name. Well, there you go. It's flowing, you see. Little things come. Be welcoming for the little things as well. They're very, very helpful for many. Is there a particular practice you find most effective for resolving childhood negativity that limits your beliefs without support from others around you? Yes, basically, I would suggest entering into this conscious creation mindset, because the childhood memories are basically tied up with, mummy and daddy and being small and not being able to be a powerful, expressive person. That's what it is. So if you start by doing things for yourself, it can be anything, or doing things consciously and deliberately, go through the negativity that will arise, because negativity will come up for everybody, usually, but eventually it'll go quite quickly. So you do something. That's the trick. You see, most people have not completed the arc of maturity, which starts at birth and should finish when the body is fully grown, about 21 to 24. That's maturity. But emotionally, people are blocked. In infancy, early childhood, by 11 years old, most people have got some sort of restriction, and that is what you're battling. You're battling that problem. And what you need to do is to do what you would do if you were a full adult, which is be conscious, be deliberate, be creative, make something, do something, take control of your body, build something, write a book, anything like that you can do. That will help you a lot to do that. If there's injury, bad things have happened to you, then a little professional help might help, but basically try that first of all to complete the arc of maturity, so you then naturally remove negativity from the childhood and you can create what you want. Do you get a lot of thoughts in your meditations? I'm curious if you still do. Julie, there are times when thoughts roll on. I don't try to stop thoughts. Give that one up. Thoughts tend to dissipate down the bottom somewhere. You don't want to think that you can stop the thoughts, because if you stop the thoughts, you stop the nervous system, 2 sides of the same coin, and you're dead. then. So it's let them calm down. Just become calm. Just focus your attention on the energy. All sorts of physiological, psychological things will continue on, but you are in the energy, and that's where you want to get to. Am I in the energy? That's really what it is. Is the bar retreat got any places left? Yes, there are 2 places left. If you haven't booked, hurry up and book. If you want to go, I know that what we're going to do in the bar and retreat is exactly what I've described here, in the sense of give you the practices, do the work. You will find that everything that you need will be explained to you. I'm going to give you the ultimate technique this time, the overriding technique, which speeds all this work that we've talked about here up. It's going to be a fabulous, fabulous weekend. I don't know if I can do another one because I've got film commitments coming up and the clock ticks on for everyone. So this is going to be a fabulous experience. If you haven't been before, I know you'll like it. Let me just put, there it is. I'll send the link in the chat box, and I'll send it in the answer box as I normally do, send to all. So there. So if you'd like to come along, do grab it. There's a lot of explanation on the website. There's a video to watch about it as well. But if you are completely committed and interested in living from the superconscious, this is what the weekend will do for you. How to live completely, totally from the superconscious and have a great and interesting, fascinating life. That's what we're going to be dealing with, an enchanted life, if you like. And if you come along, I'm going to give you, in addition to the musicians with the live chanting, which we always do, it's really great to get that. You will get high, but I'm going to give you lots and lots of practical steps and fascinating information that will embed permanently in you exactly how you need to live in order to get all these great benefits from life. So have a look at that. If you can come, grab it quickly. I'm leaving it up there, and I'll take the last couple of questions. And just click on the link. If you didn't get the link, send me a little message back and I'll put it up again. How can I chant with my landlord, who is elderly, lives next door to me, and I want to chant, but it seems loud and the noise echoes outside my house, so then I can't participate? What I found over the years is that nobody has found when they chant that they get complaints because people think they're listening to the radio, the old or a CD player. So I would just chant. You don't have to chant completely loudly, but at least you chant at a normal speed, and you'll find that nobody will mind during the day. It's completely legal. Don't do it in the middle of the night, but if you do it, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., it's completely legal to do it. So they might enjoy it, hearing it as well. Okay, thanks, Brett. Interested in your thoughts on how the USA economy will perform over the next couple of years and Trump. Well, I don't know what's going to happen to Trump. The Democrats are longing to impeach him and remove him from office. I don't know whether they'll succeed. It's a really big stretch to do that. The economy, they are enormously in debt, trillions in debt. I'm not sure they're going to be able to get out of it. They might be lucky to be able to just sort of, escape the guillotine. It depends a lot on China and other countries, Europe as well, of course, the big economies. So I think we're all right for a few months, but I'm not sure after that. But you can see the results. I mean, the stuff I read is that it's all bad news. But good old Australia tends to pull itself out of it. But there will be challenges. This is why I suggest everybody actually creates for themselves a new skill or skills and upgrades their consciousness. That's the only thing that's going to save people. If you don't upgrade your consciousness, you're there with the mass, the mob, and the mob will probably go down. It certainly won't go up because the amount of money people are earning is going down now since before the GFC. So that's going down. So that's what I would say. I would go for that. Hi, Michael. Awesome webinar. Thanks, Julie. Thank you, Michael. Your answers are welcome in a particularly difficult time. Thanks, Andrew. Okay, Lucy, that's fine. I have a repeating dream where I can move objects just looking in willpower. That's nice. For someone who would like to move something with just the power of the mind, is this reality? What practice you recommend? Meditation, chanting. You know what I would do, Vlad? I would look up the guy who used to bend spoons. Now, what was his name? I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Um, Geller, Uri Geller. Look up Uri Geller. He's got, I think it's urigeller.com or something like that. And it turns out that he actually does have some powers of this nature. And I would use that as a beginning source to go through and find where you can learn it. We knew somebody locally who would teach people to bend spoons, and we had a friend who went and learned how to bend a spoon. So it's possible. It wasn't a trick at all. It was something with the molecules or something. So that's what I do. Start with Uri Geller, see what he recommends, read through all his history. Very interesting indeed. And that would be the best place to start. Ivy, thank you very much. See you in Byron. That's right. Anybody need to know anything? Here we go. Fascinating as usual. Very nice. Thanks very much, Mario. That's great. Great seminar. Should I set a friend free who treats me poorly? However, she needs me right now as she's going through a hard time, causing me a great deal of negativity and distress. Well, that is often a problem, that you need to be as kind as you can, but when you're dealing with someone who's difficult, often a question is the best way, rather than saying, why are you such a bitch or whatever. Often a question is the best way to handle that. Like, how do you feel that behaving like this is helping you, or something gentle. But often people are under stress and they behave as if they've got psychological problems. And when the stress goes, they're back to normal and they're nice again. So see how you go. But if they keep doing it, then you have to make your decisions. Thank you, Michael. I love the Byron Bay retreat and meeting you again last year. Would love to zap myself there now. Thanks, Sandra. That would be nice. I still think I'll come to the UK to do some courses. Jeff, thanks. I'm looking forward to seeing you. Yes, that's lovely, Jeff. Not long to go now. We've only got two and a half weeks to go. Bring a mat with you, Lucy, if you like. We may have time for something. Thanks, Debbie. That's great. Looking forward to coming. Good. That's great. Yeah, it's going to be great. If you can come, please try. It can be life-changing. It'll echo through your life forever, this knowledge. It'll shift you, and it'll really make you think, wow, that's how I should be living, because you don't want to get to the end of life, as so many people are hearing about now, because I'm getting older, obviously, who say, what was the point of all that? Why did I live without knowing this material? I did all these things that I was told that I should do, but it didn't deliver. It won't deliver. Nothing will deliver in the outside world in the sense of delivering meaning, consciousness, ecstasy, bliss, higher states, all that sort of thing. The only thing that will do that is the superconscious. It's been known for thousands of years. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. Grab it while you can, and be aware of charlatans and people like that trying to lead you astray. Just do the real thing, the classic practices, which is what I do. I followed them, I learned them, and I found them the best. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's really important. There's so much to be gained. And if you are in a relationship problem, if you alter your state of consciousness and you're in a really great state, you find people will change. You dance a different dance with them. And if you're in trouble with money or work or anything, just change your state, change your state. A little bit of practice, change your state, and you'll notice. It's very clear. I do 15 minutes, 20 minutes maximum of a practice. I feel great. It's, you know, suddenly I've got energy for 4 hours and everything's fabulous. And this is what happens. And when we do it for the whole weekend, you can imagine how great you'll feel. So that's what you need to do. Thanks, David. Looking forward to seeing you there. Great webinar. Thanks, Joan. That's very nice. Thanks, Stephanie. See you soon. Okay. I think that's it. No more questions. Everybody's got the link. Yep. Okay. Well, we went quite a long time, but still good. And I shall see you again. I don't know quite when, but we'll see you soon, I think. But we might be able to squeeze another one in before the weekend. Probably will. Okay. Thanks for coming. And much appreciated. I trust you enjoyed it and got a lot out of it, and you'll put it into practice. So here we go. Bye for now. I'll do this one here and end webinar. There we go. See you next time. All the best.